What if the man you thought you knew was only a shadow of who he truly is? In 2025, South Korea witnesses a side of Kim Taehyung known to the world as btsBts that no one saw coming. Are you ready to uncover the truth behind the mystery he's been quietly keeping from the world? Have you ever wondered who Kim Taehyung really is when the lights fade and the music stops? You've seen him smile on stage. You've watched him perform under the blinding glow of global fame, but what happens when the cameras turn away? In 2025, Korea found out, and what emerged wasn't just another celebrity story, it was a revelation that changed how millions saw him forever. Before you scroll past, ask yourself, do you think you truly know the real V? Because what you're about to read will make you question everything. And if this story moves, you don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because this isn't just news. It's a journey into the soul of one of the most enigmatic figures of our generation. The story begins in early 2025, when Kim Taehyung reappeared in the public eye after months of quiet, not as the idol everyone remembered, but as someone new, almost unrecognizable in spirit. He had vanished from the typical rhythm of schedules, music releases, and brand appearances, leaving fans to wonder what was happening behind the silence. Rumors swirled, some whispered that he was struggling. Others believed he was preparing for something extraordinary. Few could have guessed the truth, that Taehyung was confronting the one thing fame could never protect him from himself. The revelation came not in a grand announcement or flashy press conference, but through something far more intimate. A documentary simply titled W. Korea 2025: The Untold Side of Taehyung. When the first teaser dropped, social media exploded. A haunting voiceover, a single image of him walking barefoot along a deserted Seoul street, and one line, "The world saw my smile, but not my silence." It was a confession wrapped in poetry. A hint that the story we thought we knew was only the surface of something much deeper. The documentary begins with Taehyung sitting alone in a dimly lit room, surrounded by film reels and old photographs. His eyes carry the same warmth fans adore, but there's something raw, a quiet exhaustion that feels almost sacred. "I wanted to remember who I was before the music," he says softly, as the camera lingers on his face. It's not the V of global stages or glossy magazine covers. It's Kim Taehyung, the boy from Daegu who once dreamed of singing just to be heard. For years, he had lived under the magnifying glass of adoration, fame, and unrelenting scrutiny. Yet behind the flawless visuals and mesmerizing performances, there was a growing dissonance. The documentary captures moments of him walking through ordinary markets, talking to elderly shop owners, sitting by the Han River with a sketchbook. Each scene feels like an echo of someone rediscovering life beyond celebrity. Each scene feels like an echo of someone rediscovering life beyond celebrity. "I realized I had forgotten how to listen," he says in one scene, voice trembling slightly. "Everyone was speaking about me, but not to me." The emotional core of the film lies in its simplicity. There are no stage tears, no dramatic music cues, only Taehyung's truth. He speaks of nights when applause turned to silence, and the silence became unbearable. Of mornings when he couldn't face the mirror, without questioning who he was performing for. He confesses that for the first time in years, he had taken time off to travel alone, without security, without stylists, without a name. In those quiet moments, he found fragments of the person he thought fame had erased. Then comes the twist no one saw coming. In one of the most talked about scenes, Taehyung visits a small art studio on the outskirts of Busan, one that he had quietly funded for young artists. Over the past 3 years, the public had never known. The walls are filled with vibrant, chaotic colors, expressions of dreams and pain, painted by hands that once felt invisible. "They remind me of what I used to be," he says, looking at the art, uncertain, fearful, but honest. He sits beside one of the painters, a teenage girl who says she almost gave up after being told her art wasn't good enough. Taehyung listens quietly, then says something that lingers long after the scene fades. "Perfection is a cage. Art begins when you stop trying to be perfect." It's a moment of pure vulnerability, the kind of wisdom that only comes from someone who has lived under impossible expectations. The documentary doesn't just reveal his emotional side, it unveils his creative rebirth. Taehyung, who had been known primarily for his deep voice and soulful gaze, now emerges as a storyteller, a director, a poet. He filmed parts of Korea 2025 himself, capturing his own moments of solitude in grainy black and white frames. One haunting sequence shows him sitting by a bonfire, murmuring verses he wrote during his time away. The stars don't shine to be seen. They shine because they can't help it. It's in these poetic fragments that we begin to see the man behind the myth. The world had known the performer, but here, we meet Taehyung, the seeker. Someone who has learned that beauty is not always loud, that healing can come from silence, and that vulnerability is not weakness, but art in its purest form. The emotional intensity of Korea 2025 sent waves across social media. Fans wept, critics praised its authenticity, and even those unfamiliar with BTS found themselves drawn to the quiet gravity of Taehyung's story. It wasn't a spectacle, it was a mirror, and in that reflection, many found pieces of their own hidden selves. What makes this revelation even more striking is how it redefines the narrative of fame in South Korea culture that often prizes perfection and restraint. Taehyung's openness challenges the very image that K-pop idols are expected to uphold by revealing his insecurities, his solitude, and his moments of self-doubt. He didn't diminish his stardom, he deepened it. For perhaps the first time, a superstar stood before millions not as an icon, but as a human being. In one unforgettable scene, the camera follows him to a quiet countryside where he visits his grandparents' home. The house is modest, untouched by the glitz of fame. He kneels beside his grandmother's garden, touching the soil, smiling faintly. "This is where I learned that love doesn't need an audience," he whispers. That line became one of the documentary's most quoted moments. A quiet thunderclap that spoke to fans everywhere about the weight of authenticity in an age obsessed with image. There's a heartbreaking honesty when he talks about loneliness. Sometimes, he admits, "I wondered if people loved me or the idea of me." That single sentence ripples through the film like a confession too heavy to carry alone. The camera doesn't cut away. It stays, letting the silence breathe. The kind of silence that says more than any scripted dialogue could. By the time the documentary ends, Taehyung is walking down a narrow alley at dawn, his figure framed by soft light. The world around him is still asleep. He turns to the camera and says, "If you've watched this far, thank you for seeing me, not V." But Taehyung, it's a farewell and a beginning all at once. The release of Korea 2025 sparked a national conversation. TV panels debated whether South Korea's entertainment industry was ready for this kind of raw self-portrayal. Fans flooded social media with messages of gratitude, saying they felt seen and comforted by his honesty. Others speculated that this was just the beginning, that Taehyung was preparing to reinvent himself as an artist who would blur the lines between music, film, and emotion itself. And maybe that's the real secret behind the story. The Taehyung we see in 2025 isn't just a musician rediscovering himself. Is a symbol of the courage it takes to break your own image, to start again when the world already thinks it knows who you are. So now, as the credits roll and the screen fades to black, one question lingers in the air. Who is Kim Taehyung, really? Is he the global superstar who can command stadiums? Or the quiet soul who finds beauty in imperfection? Maybe he's both. Maybe that's the point. And as you sit here, wondering about the man behind the music, ask yourself how much of what we see in others is just what they allow us to see. If Taehyung's story has taught us anything, it's that truth is rarely loud. Sometimes it's a whisper in the dark, waiting for someone to listen. If this story touched you, don't just scroll away. Leave a comment. Share what part of his journey spoke to you. Because maybe, just maybe, by understanding him, we start to understand a little more about ourselves too.
If we had the chance, then